Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Honey and Stag. It's been a while because, we've been busy bees, but I think you will agree with us that it's been worth the wait for this evening's event. Something very special in so many ways tonight. And we have an author with us, and then the author has brought in two special guests to chat to about her book and about the process and everything. So I hope you are safe and cozy. Sit back and have a listen to what I think is a bit of a revolution with regard to books and the creation of books. So please, without further ado, will you welcome into the studio with us Cheryl Rosebush.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Hello, Dr. Collins.
it is wonderful to have you with us to talk about this amazing creation of yours and how it's come about. So we're here tonight to talk about. Now, would you hold the cover up for us so we can see?
Oh, what? Oh, what? This little thing?
That little thing there, wonderful. So this book called Trees, been
Yes.
published independently through Freshly Press, and I've told the viewers you're going to talk later with the people that have helped you bring this into being. But let me introduce you, if that's okay. Global communication specialist, and somebody for whom environmentalism is just right at the heart of everything that you do. I had a look on your website, and immediately those words that ring out where you say, my mission is to promote sustainable ways of living across this beautiful planet. Yeah, and I think, that is just, it's such a beautiful sort of like welcome there on the page and the ethos there. So, my first question is to ask you, what sparked your awareness? How did you come to be at this point now? Where did it all begin?
It was a baptism by fire 10 years ago
Uh-huh.
when I was recruited out of a newsroom in Canada. I was a journalist in Canada for many years. And then long story short, I got a job with the UN. And I thought, I was going to the UN, but I didn't know exactly what I would be working on. And I landed in the secretariat of a forestry initiative that the UN, it's called UN Red Program, but it's sort of an initiative of the UN Environment Program in collaboration with other units in the UN to curb deforestation especially in tropical forest countries. I showed up the first day on the job. I didn't know a thing about forestry. I had no background in environmental sciences. And what happened over the next 3 years with the UN was really what I mentioned, that baptism by fire, where I learned there on the job about our climate crisis, about all the ways in which forests are an essential part of the solution to our climate crisis and environmental challenges. And then from that sort of specialty that I gathered and gained from my work with the UN, I then started to branch out and understand, and made it my business to understand all of the components that we need in place to rein back, mitigate, and adapt to climate change. And so what started as sort of niche in the forestry piece of the puzzle has branched out now to understandings about more globally what sustainable development really means. So that's my deep dive. That's the pool that I keep swimming in 10 years later. And, I had no idea when I started with the UN that 10 years later, I would just be more invested than ever, that there's no end in sight, and that I'm developing with each passing year new audiences and new ways to communicate these key messages.
So, I mean, wow. And to sound maybe like one of those job interviews, where you are now 10 years ago was not where you saw yourself. No, it wasn't this.
Yeah, no, I guess you could say that because, I knew that I would spend my last waking day in the field of communications. I'm a
Mhm,
born communicator. I love that field.
mhm,
But so I'm happy communicating about a lot of things. I think 10 years ago, if the same sort of happenstance had landed me at UN Women in New York or something like that, I think
mhm,
probably 10
mhm,
years later, you'd find me championing all those causes. So I think it was a bit of fate and serendipity that placed me with the UN Environment Program, 10 years ago. And because I feel like it's so urgently important to work in this space, there are
mhm.
other equally important spaces to work in. But at a certain point, if I feel like there's so much work to be done in one space and I have this investment of 10 years now in
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
I'm sticking with that.
yeah. I am so glad that you are, and I like what you say about when either you find or life takes you to a place where you can be doing what needs to be done. And I have
Yeah.
one last question before we move into the delight of your book. And I just wonder, over these years, is there one specific project that you think, I don't know, that you will always take with you? Because I know you've been involved in a number of
Yeah.
things, but right now, is there something that if they said you can only take one memory with you, what would it be?
You know what? I've traveled across the developing world
Hmm.
and seen so many tremendous things, but I have to say, I think part of my heart stayed in Indonesia. I
Hmm.
was there on mission almost 2 years ago now. And I guess maybe you could say it's not a coincidence that my first children's book takes place in Indonesia, because truly, I not only was the work that I was seeing from the Indonesian people on the ground, forest restoration projects, indigenous groups just so hard at work and so connected to the environment that they live in ways that we in the Western world or developed world or whatever you want to call it, we've lost so much of this connection.
Hmm.
And it was
Yes.
so inspiring to see nature and people like in synergy, in a symbiotic relationship that I don't see around me where I live. And the beauty of that country, how sweet and lovely the people were. So yeah, Indonesia is always going to stay very close to my heart, and I can't wait to bring my boys back there one day. They're little now,
Hmm.
6 and 5 years old, but the minute that trip makes sense and we're outside of a pandemic,
Of
is that
course.
that's going to happen, right?
Of
We're going to
course
get
it is.
outside of this. Sometimes
Honestly,
it feels like
I know, but I truly believe because I think, and this is just my belief, and I won't linger long on this, but I think this situation that we're in now is all part of being taught what
mm,
is of value and what
mm,
matters. And I
mm.
think the work that you're doing, both as that global communication specialist and also as the author of this new series of books.
Mm.
So yes, we will move beyond this. Just hang in there. Hang
Yeah,
in.
hang in there, and hopefully we'll be smarter and wiser, and we'll
Exactly.
take this opportunity to reset and
Mhm.
and bring on that new normal that has a lot more sustainability at its core, right?
Exactly. I think, without wishing to sound too negative, there is a captive audience there, you
Yeah,
know, because we
yeah,
have time to consider.
yeah.
So,
Mm.
yeah. So now, trees, what the world needs now. This is the first of a series, which is really
Yes.
exciting. But where did it begin? What was that seed that has grown into the book?
So I think after 10 years of communicating to governments, international organizations, politicians, I was sort of, I always like to always like to refresh what I'm doing every 5, 6, 7 years. I always like to find a new challenge within the space that I'm in. And I felt like after 10 years of working in this space, communicating to pretty much the same audiences, I kind of felt like I wanted to broaden the audiences while staying in the same subject matter. At the same time, I found myself starting to communicate to my little ones who were 5 and 4 and 3 or 5 and whatever at the time, super little, about what mommy does. And starting to show them ways that the ways that I want to raise them, and the types of consumer decisions already that I want us to be making as a family. So I would say that the real light bulb moment for me was a moment in the grocery store, of all places, when my oldest was about 3 or 4 years old. And what do kids do in grocery stores? Well, they tug on you and ask you to buy 10,000 things. And one of them was this cheap plastic toy that I totally did not want to buy him. So rather than just saying no, 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 no all the time, I said, listen, we're not going to buy that plastic toy. And here's why. Because that's going to break in 2 days. It's going to end up in the garbage. Sometimes garbage ends up in the ocean. And then whales and dolphins and turtles think that that plastic is food and they eat it and it makes them sick. You talk about, I had his attention. I was talking about nature. I was talking about animals that he loved and was curious about. And click. He was 4 years old. That was a 5-6 step process in that, in that, just that depiction. And he just got it. He could repeat it back to me. I heard him repeating it back to his brother later. And so a huge light bulb moment for me when I realized, no, we not only do we not need to wait to start talking about these things because they're so smart and they'll get it. We need to start when they're this age because they're all ears at 5 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. And that's when they aren't rolling their eyes at you yet for everything that you say and don't. And so I said, I have this golden opportunity where they're just listening. They're just waiting for the information to come from mom or dad. And I said, well, that was it, Dr. Collins. That really was for me. I was just like, this is my new audience. I can do this. And I know where we need to start.
It's wonderful that it be such a simple moment, but that it have such repercussions that here we are this evening talking, but more to that, that creation that is yours. So I wonder, would you care to read a first piece from it?
Sure. So, the heart and soul of this series is really about connection, about finding what is that right starting point. Because I know I'm a parent and I understand where parents are in this space. They're afraid of overwhelming their kids with all of this awful, heavy, complicated, bad news. And so what the series exists to do is to give parents and kids the right starting point when to sort of set in place the foundation, the building blocks for future, more complicated, more daunting conversations. And what is that starting point? Well, it's connection. It's connection. When you're 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, you first need to understand why nature is important. Where's our place in it? And so connection is kind of where I want to start with my first passage. So I needed a little preamble before we get to it. But what I wanted to do and what this passage will sort of exemplify is establishing and creating that connection where we feel more similar to Jeffrey than we feel different. So we meet Jeffrey a little bit later in the book. Here we go. I'll try to turn around like this so you can see him. So it says on this page, it says, Jeffrey surely looks different from you, and his home is probably very different from yours. But you and Jeffrey actually have a lot in common. And Jeffrey says, really? How so? And it says, Jeffrey climbs and swings about in trees. Jeffrey says, have you ever climbed a tree? They are the perfect habitat for him on hot and rainy days. Do you like my umbrella? He says. And when Jeffrey gets hungry, he finds all sorts of things to eat in the trees. What's your favorite food from a tree? He asks. Jeffrey's body is a lot like yours too. He has 8 fingers, 2 thumbs, and unique fingerprints just like you. And inside Jeffrey's chest, he has lungs too. These lungs breathe in the fresh, clean oxygen in the air that comes from forests and plants around him. Hey, we do have a lot in common, he says. So those 3 pages are very intentional. They are, for me, where I'm establishing our connection with Jeffrey so that if he needs trees for oxygen and food and shelter, then so do we. And so we're all in this together. And that is one of the themes that will run through these books in the series.
That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing those pages. I just wonder, can we now talk about the process of putting those ideas together? Because, forgive me, if I make an assumption here, but you'd not written for children beforehand, no?
Nope. No, and there is an art and a science to that I had to learn fast. And what helped me tremendously is editing. So I reached out to, I think on this book, I worked with 3 separate editors. I really wanted multiple viewpoints. I wanted multiple feedback. And, the first version of this book was also, I tested it out on my kids and it fell flat, to be completely honest. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe it's because mommy was talking too much today. I don't know. Maybe, so then I went to the editors and similar feedback came back because the first version of this book was like if I just pressed sort of like download of everything I wanted to say in my adult brain. Exactly.
Yeah.
You've written books before, and so I was, the first draft was too heavy. It wasn't simple and playful enough. And so, 100% needed editors to help me find the right template, the right voice for this series.
And if viewers are interested, again on your website, there's a lovely video to go with the book. I think it's lovely seeing you and your family together. And I noticed on there your boys around you, around the laptop. And I wanted to ask, and you've answered that you tested it out on them. Did you keep testing subsequent versions on them?
Well, yeah, I think I did. So version 1 and version 2 were really different in all the right ways. And then when I got to version 2, there was just tweaking to do to that one. So in version 2, I think I wanted to wait until at least I had some illustrations, but I knew we were on the right track with that one. And then when we sat down and read it, yeah, they were a lot more invested. And then I have to say, illustration is king when we're talking to 4 to 8-year-olds. And I mean, if this guy doesn't draw you in, my amazing illustrator, it's too bad there's a bit of a glare on my computer, but he is beyond my expectations in terms of cute.
And totally. I was going to ask you about your illustrator. So Susanna Svobodova.
Svobodova.
Yes, yeah. How did you find her? Did she find you? What was the moment that?
There was. It is kind of a cool moment. So I was looking around and I knew I was going to take my time for an illustrator because I knew an illustrator was going to be the deal maker or the deal breaker. And to set this apart, listen, I'm aware there are tons of children's books out there. There are more and more children's books about the environment. I really wanted something that popped. visually.
Mhm.
And so what I got in the habit of doing is I joined far too many Facebook groups with illustrators and authors, and my news feed was like overwhelmed for a period of time with just. And so what I would do is that if I saw an illustration that I really liked, I would save it, and then a couple of times a week I would just go back into my saved posts and see what I was initially being drawn to. And sure enough, I had saved 4 of her posts without knowing it was the same illustrator.
Whoa.
And then I was just like, oh, she's the one. She's the one. She did this one like monster type drawing with this fuzzy fluff, the cutest monster you've ever seen, with this fluffy hair. And I was like, that's Jeffrey's hair. Jeffrey has to have that fuzzy hair at the top. And so she gave me the fuzzy hair. But anyway, so I found her. She's in Slovakia.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a very experienced illustrator, which is what I needed to fill in my blanks because I'm so new to all of this. And she is a total pro. I mean, not only so talented, but she's also the book designer. So she does it all. She did all the amazing illustrations plus the book design, everything. She just hands it over. So amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so we've got a listener there. Hi, Joanne. So glad that
Thanks,
you're with
Joanne.
us. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nice.
It really is. It is a total work of art. But I'm intrigued that you just found the right one in that way that would convey all that was in you about Jeffrey's story.
When I saw her portfolio and a few of her characters, I said she will create my Jeffrey. And by the way, we are well onto book 2. Book 2 is almost completely illustrated. Book 3 is about to be illustrated starting in December. So we are rolling, and she is a machine. She's just like cranking it out. It's amazing.
So we have Jeffrey the orangutan, and it's trees is the focus.
Yes.
Book 2, because I have done my homework. Book 2 is about bees. Is that
yes,
right?
What the world needs now, bees.
Bees. And so, can you share what the third one's about?
Listen, book 2 is my love letter to Canada. I started writing this during the pandemic, and I was feeling so homesick. Psychologically, when you can't do something, I'm just used to jumping on a plane when I'm feeling homesick. Couldn't do that. So book 2 takes place in Ontario, Canada, in the forests of Ontario, Canada, with a young black bear named Melly. And Melly really loves to eat fruit and bees and honey. And what Melly doesn't know is that bees are actually the reason she gets to eat all this beautiful forest fruit. And so we discover what bees do. And then book 3 is what the world needs now, less plastic. And we catch up with a sweet little sea turtle in the North Pacific Ocean, right off the shores of Hawaii. And Kalea is going to tell us why plastic is not such a good idea for the oceans or anywhere else in nature.
It's getting a bit emotional. I think.
That's so nice.
Your vision is beautiful, and just again, if we can tell people that are watching the impact of your project already. Just reading that the book has been selected for inclusion in the Jane Goodall Institute Roots and Shoots virtual library in Canada. How did that feel to find that out?
Listen, the goal was, if anything close to Jane Goodall could touch this book, I would have been happy. It started with that, and then through divine intervention, the book made it all its way to Dr. Goodall herself, and she personally endorsed the book. So not only is it in Roots and Shoots, but she read the book.
Will you permit me to read that endorsement, because it's
of
gorgeous?
Course.
He says, "This is a delightful book with captivating illustrations. It presents the vital role played by trees to a young audience in a way which will captivate, educate, and inspire many to join the global effort to protect forests and plant trees." Dr. Jane Goodall, DBE. It's like You did it.
I still can't believe it.
No.
It's so out of body, like, to listen to you. I just, it's like, I remember when I got this, when I received this review, I said, the best possible thing that could happen to my first book just happened. Like, how it's a book about the environment with an orangutan on the cover, and Jane Goodall has endorsed it. Like, how is this possible? Like, you can't dream any bigger than that for this
No,
book.
no, no.
And so I'm so humbled. It inspires me so much, Dr. Collins. And I'm like, well, it's on now. Like, if she's coming to the stepping up
Yeah,
for me,
it's it's the road ahead.
here we go.
I think you are, even in this short conversation that we've had, I find you so inspirational because you followed a light bulb moment.
Mm.
You didn't let that go. And we're now at this point. So, thank you for your inspiration. I think, what you provide. And if it's not too cheeky, please will you do a second reading?
Oh, sure. Okay. But you'll have to put up with my preambles, because I always have to do a preamble for. So what the other section that I would love to share with you is, listen, when I was about to write this, embark on this journey of writing for children, what was immediately on my radar was climate anxiety, and how this is an ever increasing problem for our youth that are going to inherit this mess. And kids at a younger and younger and younger age are starting to tune into this, this crisis and this reality. And so I wanted to make sure that I knew what was being, what the climate psychologist, what the field of psychology has to offer on the topic of climate anxiety. And some of the best experts in this space, one of them in particular, Dr. Renee Lertzman, does an amazing TED Talk on the topic. She has also endorsed the book, which is just amazing. I've reached out to her this year, and we're connected now. And I'm such a fan of her, what she's about, because what she's teaching and the drum that she beats over and over again is that we have to meet our anxieties. We have to pause and take a moment and hold space for these worries and these fears that we have. So that's the end of my preamble. And I've woven some of that approach into these books as well. So we meet Jeffrey. We've gone into his forest and his habitat. And now we're confronted with sort of the moment of tension in the book. So we say, now imagine, hold on, let me get center here. Now imagine if someone came along and cut down too many trees in Jeffrey's rainforest or near your home. This can happen when people are looking for new places to grow food, raise farm animals, or construct new buildings. And of course, Jeffrey looks pretty worried at the prospect of too many trees being cut down. He says, well, if people cut down too many trees, where would we live and find food? Would we have enough oxygen to breathe? And then we follow that up with, it's okay. It's okay to have questions and feel worried about these things. When there aren't enough trees, that affects everyone. Just like Jeffrey, people need trees too for food, shelter, and clean air, among many other things. And so this is the guidance that climate psychologists give us on this, is that we can't just say, oh, everything's going to be okay. There's this solution and this solution. The right approach, and honestly, whether you're 4 or 94, it's to say, whatever you're feeling, it makes sense. It makes total sense. It is a complete mess. But we have the competencies and the capacity to find the solutions. That's what Dr. Lertzman and her colleagues say on this subject. And that's where we have to meet our anxieties. I found that really important. For me, it felt good. For me, it felt like a necessary part of the starting point. And so I wanted to make sure that those moments found their way into the book, into all the books, actually.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I do believe there's a question coming in. Here it is. So, yeah, Joanne, I think that kids will love Jeffrey. He's so cute. Do you have a favourite character from a children's book? Maybe one you remember from your own childhood?
Is that for you or for me?
That's for you.
That's for
This
me.
is this is your gig. Yeah.
But you tell us too if you have one. You know what? It's so strange. The first one that comes to mind is Winnie the Pooh.
Hmm.
He's the first one that comes to mind for me. So I'm going to go with that. He just as I was reading the question, he popped in. I think there's something so beautiful. I mean, listen, obviously it's a total classic, right? The whole series, because there's so much woven into so few words in those books, isn't there? There's so much said in so few words in those books. It's masterful and so touching and so sweet and so playful. Yeah, I definitely,
Beautiful.
that's Winnie the Pooh stays with me.
Gorgeous. Now then, if you don't mind, as much as it pains me, I am going to love you and leave you for now because I know you want to introduce some special guests in the next part of the program, but I'll be back to see you before the end. Okay.
Great. Sounds good.
Bye bye for now.
Bye-bye. So I think the first special guest is very special indeed, Sarah Smith. Where's Sarah? There she
Hi.
is.
Hello.
Hello. This is my eco printer extraordinaire. Hi, Sarah. So tell everybody, where are we finding you this evening?
Well, I'm actually in my office. So, yeah, I'm still at work.
And where is that to tell everybody?
In the UK.
Right. And I'm in France. And this is the way we always communicate, is over Zoom or FaceTime. But Sarah has become a regular fixture in my life over the past several months. I feel like, Sarah, you and I talk more than I talk with my mom these days. Does it feel that way for you too?
Well, it's I've learned so much, in all honesty. It's been a really good experience for me. So I hope you get something from me as well. It's been good.
That's so great. So Sarah, for people just joining and not knowing too much about you and I, we connected when we were looking for an eco printer, because I couldn't very well produce an environmental children's book series that did not walk its talk, right? I would just be opening myself up to all manner of deserved criticism. And I just had no interest in producing something that wasn't adhering to the highest standards that exist.
Yeah.
And so, another moment of serendipity, it didn't actually take us too long to find you. And when we did, we quickly realized, whoa, what we thought we would achieve, we just in fact far exceeded our expectations for what is possible in the field of eco printing. And that is thanks to your years and years and years in the paper business, in the printing business. And so you've brought all of your experience to bear on my projects. But Sarah, could you tell us a little bit about, you've been in the business a long time, 30 years in the paper business, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And could you tell us where you felt the shift started happening in sort of a demand presenting itself and establishing itself for sustainability in what you produce?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I suppose I have to cast my mind back to about 20 to 25 years ago when tender contracts would come through to the office from particularly like the government or different schools and councils. And on the contracts, they would say it had to be a 50% or 100% recycled paper. And it was really an important factor. And then gradually over time, I saw other accreditations come up. I mean, I don't know if you would be familiar with something called BS 5750. That was about 25 years ago. It then went on to accreditations ISO 9001. And then more recently, there was paper organisations joining up with like the World Land Trust and the Woodland Trust. to offset their carbon when producing paper. So you had that as well as recycled paper together. So yeah.
Yeah. But would you say up until very recently, the demand stayed pretty niche? It didn't really
Yeah, for
go
sure.
mainstream?
I mean, only from my experience of selling the paper, I very rarely sold recycled. The demand sort of peaked about 15 years ago, and then it suddenly sort of dropped off again. Not really sure. I think people preferred a cleaner sheet because many years ago, recycled paper had lots of fibers in.
5% it, yeah.
And I'll always remember a particular printer was absolutely mortified because they had to reprint a load of exercise books. It was a maths test, and a piece of recycled fiber was in the wrong place on a test sheet. And so they had to reprint at their own expense. Right. And that kind of put printers off from using recycled paper. But of course, over the years, the process has got a lot cleaner and the paper is a lot whiter, and you'll see only little tiny flecks.
And honestly, not even that you cannot, the paper feels a little bit different in this book, but the whites are just truly, well, my camera isn't great. It's looking a little gray, but there aren't any little flecks in it. And it's just amazing how far it's come. Listen, when we talk about what we've been able to accomplish with this book, we have the fully 100% carbon captured recycled paper. You have found us biodegradable lamination, non-toxic vegetable-based inks, and you found us a printing partner that can do this at scale that is carbon balanced. So a printer that carbon balances its paper. Can anybody else on the planet bring all of this to the table for an author? I mean, how rare is this? And feel free to be honest and say it's rare.
Well, it is quite rare to bring out all of those things together. I mean, obviously, we've got Barnwell Printing. He is aligned with the World Land Trust. So he offsets his printing, his energy, his paper. And then we obviously brought together the Woodland Trust, and we offset the paper through carbon capture scheme.
And that's with Premier Paper, right? Premier Paper. Yeah.
We sort of bought the paper through them. The paper is actually made in Austria by a company called Lenzing, and they have a fantastic history. I mean, they have over 8 different accreditations, including the Nordic Swan. So that's very, very popular within our organization. So, yeah, I mean, it's a first to bring, I believe, all of those strengths together in one publication. I've certainly not seen all of them in one book, but, I'm based in Norfolk. So, yeah, there might be another, but I've never seen it. So,
and really, I have the impression that this might not even have been possible 15 years ago, because it has taken all of your years in this field to sort of bring all of these components and these options together. I mean, is that the way you feel too? Could you have made this book 10 years ago?
No, because I hadn't met a particular gentleman called Ernst, who is the owner of the recycled mill in Austria. I only met him 5 years ago, and what struck me about him was he was just so passionate about the environment, about his paper mill, what he was doing to improve recycled paper and the energy part of it. And he was truly inspirational. And I said to him at the time, I said, I would love to produce something special using your paper. Little did I think 5 years later we would be producing not only using his paper, but a book all about the environment. It's, from my point of view, a dream come true. Very much so.
Me too. And you helped, and I mean, really, I was out to adhere to the highest standards. But I actually didn't know what those were. And, and in working with you, I mean, I knew a little bit about recycled paper. That was about it. But in working with you, I discovered what is possible. And I feel like this project is going to forever benefit from every single chapter, every single twist and turn of your career that led you to Barnwell, that led you to Premier, that led you to Austria, that led you to, the Woodland Trust. And I just wanted to read, so I'm very, very proud of this, that you helped us achieve this. But through our partnership in working with Barnwell, Barnwell supports the World Land Trust. And so we could print in every one of these books. We've got this at the back by using carbon balanced paper through World Land Trust. On this publication, we have offset 770 kilograms of carbon and preserved 539 square meters of critically threatened tropical forests. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted a book that walks its talk. I don't know how we could, deliver more than that. And, those are little, 539 square meters. Yes, not a huge territory, but you know what? Times how many books we're going to do in the series and onwards and onwards and onwards. And what I hope that other authors listening to this tonight will take away is that just dig a little bit deeper, go that slight extra mile to try to just do business a little bit differently, when it comes to making books, because it's there. We can kick this whole game up a notch if we want to. And I think the consumers are going to help us do that, Sarah, because I feel like this is a unique selling feature of the book. And from a marketing perspective, I think it's something unique and where I hope book production as a whole goes. Because we all have to clean up our act in every sector of society. We all have to clean up our act. And I think publishing is right there with everybody else.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And you know what, before I let you go, can we talk a little bit about the really cool, innovative products that are now on the market? So
for sure.
I know that you've spoken to me about so many different cool papers and the way that they're being made, not using wood. So tell us a little bit about those.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I've got some props here. So we have paper that is made out of grass. I don't know if you can see that very well.
A little bit. We see the fibers a little bit, but amazing.
Yeah, they're all made out of grass. We have paper that is made out of wild seeds, flower seeds.
Yeah, so that's paper that you can plant, right? And grow flowers with?
Yeah, it grows into these flowers. Got some pictures. I don't know if you can see them.
Over a little bit. Oh, so gorgeous. So that I'm going to maybe want for my second book, all about bees and flowers.
Well, we printed out a little Jeffrey. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember. That's on seed paper as well. Yeah, it's we're not seeing it too well. And then there's cotton paper based in cotton.
Yes, there's paper that's been made out of cotton. We have paper that's made out of hemp. We have this particular bag.
Don't smoke this bag.
So quite amusing.
Tempting, but no.
And then we also have different products that has also been made out of berries and fruit. So this product's made out of a company called Favini. And again, they've made this one out of different parts of grape and organic products. So
it's incredible.
It is incredible.
I think for these types of products, the one major shift that has to happen is that the price point needs to go down, right? Because as beautiful as these and unique as those products are, they're pretty unattainable on like if you're looking to make 5,000 books, which is what I want to do per print run. So, but not to rule it out. Everything with supply and demand, those things can shift. But anyway, it's so cool. And I feel like if there's anybody that's going to find these new and creative products and solutions. It's you. And so I hope we can keep innovating as we go.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I love paper. So yeah, I shall definitely be keeping my eyes and ears open.
Great. Thanks so much, Sarah. Thanks for joining us. We're going to switch over to Tracy now.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for joining. All right. So we introduce Tracy Stewart. Where is Tracy? There she is. Hi, Tracy. What part of the world oh, you're on mute, I think.
Let's see. Yeah.
There we go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So Tracy, tell us where we find you tonight.
Tonight you find me in England, but I'm normally resident on the opposite side of France from you.
Yeah, that's right. Pretty far though, and further than ever, right? You just moved up northwest. Well, thanks for joining, Tracy. And just to let everybody know that Tracy came on board very, very early as a publishing consultant for me when I was starting, and didn't know up from down and side to side, and knew I wanted to create an environmental children's book series, but really had no idea what the first steps really were. And Tracy has been my guide to say, yes, don't do that. Don't do this. Yes, do this. Yes, consider this. That sounds good. Consider that. So it's really been so indispensable to have the guidance. When you do anything for the first time, it takes a village, and Tracy is part of that. So Tracy, do you want to tell us first off a little bit about Freshly Press, what your organization does?
Sure, thank you. Freshly Press was imagined in not a dissimilar way from your experience with coming up with the concept of writing for children. We came together, 3 women who happened to all live in France at the time, but we came together from a publishing background, and we wanted to provide a set of services for authors that were affordable, were ethical, and were accessible in a way that we wanted the authors to become much more engaged and part of their process. So we put together a team of the 3 of us initially, and then since then we've grown to add on consultants and freelancers that we work with, and they're known, tried, tested and trusted, including the Honey Stag team here, and we're delighted to be working with them. And it's grown in the last 3 years to become a service that reaches with authors all over the world, literally from Hawaii to Edinburgh, which is great. It makes for some interesting time zone calls, as these things inevitably do, but it's been a really wonderful experience to grow and develop Freshly Pressed into a service that is able to be flexible and to pick up and work on innovative projects such as yours.
Mm-hmm. And so what was your first impression of my brainchild way back in March?
Oh my gosh. It was a wow. There are so many amazing opportunities for us to develop new ideas, to explore different avenues, but it was hugely exciting to be able to be part of the process, and also from my perspective it was wonderful to be involved so early on, because it was the development process. You question things that a lot of authors, perhaps who have been in the business longer, don't question any longer, and that's been a really interesting part of the journey for us, because you wanted to know everything, you wanted to be engaged, you wanted to be part and parcel of it, and for me the fact that you came with such a clear vision, and with the background in wanting to make sure that, as you said, the book really walks its talk, it gave us new challenges. We have to find people who can meet all those high ethical standards. So from paper to printing to distribution to how we put it on which platforms where, how can we be more more widely involved in other areas, in other sectors, in education. And it was just a wonderful, really eclectic mix to be able to help you grow. And it's been challenging. I think we can safely say there have been occasions where we've both sort of looked and gone, okay, and we thought this was a really good idea because
yeah,
but we've got
lots
there.
of pivots.
We've got
We've
Lots
done
of
some pivots.
We
Yeah,
have
but you know
indeed.
what? I think from the very beginning, well, and this is the way I kind of approach pretty much everything in life, which is set the bar really high.
Absolutely.
and then if we've got to roll it back, we roll it back. But I would rather try to do that really almost crazy ambitious thing, because for the one time out of 10 that it actually works, then jackpot. And then if it, and Jane Goodall is an example of that, right?
Indeed, she is. Absolutely.
You know, just free to ask sort of life philosophy. And then, you know, another example where it didn't work out that way is that, you know, I said, well, listen, in a perfect world, my book out of the gates is available in every English speaking market.
Yes.
So what I loved about working with you is that you said, okay, let's try, rather than immediately saying, oof, dream on. Like that is going to be so hard to accomplish. It was, the starting point was always, yes, let's try. And then the research showed us very clearly that level of ambition was too high given my budget, given our resources. We don't have a massive team. We don't have a massive budget. So we scaled that back. But I'm much more willing, and not happier, but willing to scale back, knowing that we have tried.
And I think one of the sort of frequent conversations that we would have is that, you know, we'd absolutely always say, okay, well, nothing is impossible. It may not always be practical and achievable right now, but
Yes.
what we do know is that, you know, we've made conscious decisions, informed decisions to take the steps to the route to publication that we've done so far. But we already have plans for the next stage, because we've done the research, we've made the decision to not implement that now because of XYZ, but we have it ready to go going forward. And you know, that's for me is one of the important things, particularly with the fact that you're writing a series, is that each book you can achieve a little more of the next step of getting to your overall ideal. And it's one of the, I guess, the goals for anyone who works in publishing. You know, we want to be able to do things exceptionally well. We want to be able to reach as many people as possible with our stories. And, you know, you've done it, don't forget, in the midst of a global pandemic. You know, when we have a huge amount of opportunities taken away from us in terms of marketing. So you haven't been able to have in-person events. You haven't been able to go to schools and read to kids. You haven't been able to go to bookstores. So we've had to pivot in so many ways, not just in the production process, but in the fact that we have to play the long game with the marketing as well, because we don't have all of the avenues available that we would normally do. And you know, but we've done it. We get there, and we keep on trying different things, and we keep on having new experiences.
Yeah. And that is the advantage of a series. I remember saying to you at some point, I said, what a waste to just do one book.
Yes.
Because you do all this learning and you set things up for potentially never being able to do it. And I feel like only with a series am I going to be able to implement these ideas and these levels of ambition. Do you know what, Tracy? I thought about something in one of our initial conversations that I think could be really interesting for this audience. Is when I first got started, obviously I considered self-publishing versus going the traditional route, right? And I think our first conversation was me asking you, so how doable is self-publishing? Is it advisable? You know, should I just be going the typical route or not? And do you remember what you said to me?
Do you know, I think I said, you can take any route that you want to take if you're willing to take, you know, the time and the opportunity and the path that fits true to your heart.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And what you said is that it is 100% doable to self-publish. You know, you say, obviously it demands different things. It's, you know, more of your money, to be quite blunt,
Yes.
and more of your time, and you have to love all the phases of the project and not just the writing. But if those are in place, there is no reason in 2020 that should hold you back from doing that, because it is a totally different world in publishing. And I would say I have loved the control that I have retained in self-publishing. I get to decide everything, what it looks like, what it feels like, what word is in the book, what word's not in the book, the illustrations, the rollout, the marketing, who are we talking to, when are we talking? I think I would have been so frustrated working with and conforming to the priorities and the standards of a publisher. So
I think so. And also, you know, if you go down the more traditional route, it's a much longer process.
Yeah.
Much longer process. You know, you've gone from concept to publication in a 9-10 month period. You know, which is insane
11.
given that well, you know, kind of, we had the first couple of months were a lot of talking. So
yeah, it's true.
And you've done it in a way that is innovative, is not been tried before. So, you know, you've busted it. You know, you really have busted that myth.
Is that why I feel so tired all the time?
It's probably, it gets easier. It gets easier.
Yeah, that's what you keep saying to me.
Yeah, you do. Everyone keeps telling you that. But truly, you know, you've been able to retain control, not just in terms of the product itself, but actually getting it to market when you wanted to get it to market.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of authors can be sometimes afraid of going down the self-publishing route. But, you know, with the right guidance, with the right team in place, it's absolutely achievable, absolutely possible. And the benefits it can give you are enormous.
Yeah.
Absolutely enormous. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's important for people that have that manuscript in their drawer somewhere, or have that idea that they're afraid of developing, is that more and more and more. And you know what? You don't even have to really work with Amazon. Like, my books will be available on Amazon, but we've really done our work to make sure it's available on other platforms as well, because Amazon is becoming less and less palatable, and they take the lion's share. I know we're running out of time.
We are running out of time.
So we'll wrap up with that. But anyway, to just say that, you know, for what it's worth, self-publishing and consultants like you are out there to support self-published authors, and it's not such a scary proposition, is it?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
And we were thrilled, because it's been an absolute privilege to be part and parcel of this journey for this fantastic book. So thanks you, Tracy, for trusting us to be part of it too.
Thanks for joining us tonight. And then let's bring back in our wonderful host.
I've been getting a bit excited about it all. Sorry, I look really even more disheveled than before.
No. But I should be apologizing. There's like a minute left in this broadcast. I'm so sorry.
No, honestly, it has been an utter delight to listen to you in conversation with the people who have helped you bring this book to the public, and listen, you know, to the ethos, you know, of what it means for them to be creating and producing in a different way and in a more sustainable way. I know that a comment there from Helene Kist as well. Hello, Helene. We say, you know, the idea of you know, the control of self-publishing. You know, and I think, again, for you, you know, for the three of you to be on, and, you know, offering people a new way of thinking about things. And so there's much more I would love to ask you, but maybe we can have a part 2 another time, because I am aware of the time. I wanted you to know as well, there have been over 200 viewers watching the event this evening, and that is absolutely fabulous. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us and sharing this evening. And so, to close, if it fits well with you, would you read us a last extract?
Sure. So why don't we listen? I'll do the last 3 pages because I think they're a nice way to bookend the whole discussion. We talked earlier about laying the right foundation, the right starting points for such a young audience and such a big topic. And so one of the ways I found to do that is sort of exemplified in this little passage. So we talk about the planting trees and how we're in sort of the solutions portion of the book. And here we say, it's also important to replant the right mix of trees. The best forests are the ones that have lots of different kinds of trees, some that give shade and others that provide food and shelter for all sorts of living creatures. So that's the foundation for then later talking about problems with monocultures and all that type of stuff. But it just really needs to be that simple off the top. Healthy forests make for a healthy planet for people, plants, insects, and animals all over the world. So no matter who you are or where you live, the next time you are near a tree, breathe in deeply and give it a hug. It's a little way to say thanks to our life-giving trees. And the sun is setting, and Jeffrey and this little girl are in completely different areas of the world, but they're all connected. They're both connected to trees and the environment for the same reasons. And we get back to that idea of connection, which is, like I said, the DNA of this series.
Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
It's a different focus for us, and it's been really refreshing. I mean, a different focus in so many ways. From Honey and Stag, we just wish you all the very best with this book and that beautiful series that is already in the making. We look forward to seeing, just the spread of this out there. If people would like to get hold of a copy, how can they do so? I know Amazon is, but is there any other way for people who don't want to do Amazon?
100%. So my book distributor is ypdbooks.com. ypdbooks.com. So they're my main distributor. The book is actually not yet available on Amazon. That's coming in the next week or so. But for the moment, that's the best platform if you're in the UK, because that's UK based and you'll get it really quickly with limited, very low shipping fees, and then soon available on Amazon as well. Got to make it available there. It's sort of a necessary evil.
Totally.
Yeah, but it'll also be available on YPD, and we'll add distribution platforms as we need.
Wonderful. It just remains for me to say to you, good night, and see you again soon, I hope. Yeah?
I'll come back for book 2. How about that?
That sounds brilliant. Please do.
Is it a date?
It's a date. It's a date. It's a deal. Please do.
Done.
Okay. So everyone, what a wonderful evening. You could sit and listen to people with a vision like this talk for so long. I hope it's inspired some of you to write, to think about how you publish, to think about who you source your materials with, because maybe there's a new way of doing things that's better for the planet. But for now, from me, Dr. Jacky Collins, and from my fabulous partner in crime, Kelly Lacey, we'd like to thank you for watching, and we look forward to welcoming you back as soon as possible for another Honey and Stag literary event. Bye-bye for now.